Hey everybody, welcome to Precision Airbrush YouTube channel. My name's Damien. Today I'm not going to do a demo as such like I normally would. I've been doing this commission piece and it's a really detailed, quite small, you see my hand there, colour piece, or part black and white, part colour, and doesn't really translate that well to video because it's so detailed. I'm moving little bits and pieces, 0.5 millimeter. And I thought, what can I teach you guys? I haven't had much time to make YouTube videos because I've got this commission going. I thought, what can I show you on this piece that'll be beneficial to you? So then I thought, how about I just show you my color mixing and my color stacking. And that includes the black and white part. So that's what I'm going to show you now. I'm going to show you each stage. We've got the far background is in the lighter shades of grey. The players tackling the main player got that extra darker grey added to it to push them forward a bit from the very background. And then obviously we've got the full colour Captain Isaiah Yeo, Penrith Panthers captain. So let's get into it. Okay, so starting with this background, the lighter grey. I had 3 greys. Well, basically white with the tiniest drop of grey in it, a middle light grey, and then a little bit darker grey, which is pretty much a mid grey. Possibly the darkest bit here was this grey, and mostly that. So I started with the middle grey this time around. And I'll do a little demo here. I'm not going to paint the picture, but I'm going to stack the colours for you. So I had the white of the canvas and I airbrushed this middle grey. That's 100% this side, fading out to nothing there. So that was as I was doing a lot of the basic shapes. Very rough, not rough, but it's just the initial layers at this stage, just roughing in the shapes. Then I went up the scale, went to the darker one, this middle grey. Okay, they're on top, so smaller than this main grey. And then again, so as I say smaller, so I'm starting to put some more of those details in. And then I switched to the basically white. It's a very, very light grey, which is on this side. Now this is the point where if you look at a lot of my demos, I come in really hard with the white. So when I'm talking about moving little shapes 0.5 millimeter, like his eyes are really tiny, I would come in with the white on top and adjust those shapes with the white. So yeah, came back in strong with the white and really defined some of those edges of the darker shapes and move those minor little lines and stuff around a little bit. And then from there I start going up. So that's the lightest colour. I've gone middle, darker, all the way down to the light. Gone back to the middle colour now, and I start working back over the light, so darkening the areas because it all ends up too bright. And again, there's still a little bit of adjusting of those light shades in that part. And then I finish with the dark, lightly over the top. So you see in the end I still get that fade, but I've got that ability to adjust and move those shapes around. So that is pretty much that background. Looks a little bit darker there, so I might have had a little bit more of that middle grey. Like I've gone a bit dark with that last one here for this demo, but it would have been a little bit lighter. So that is that background grey. Now this part is the only one I've done so far, but the 3 players there are going to be, and that foreground we've got that extra layer of the charcoal. This time I started with the darkest color on the background, just to rough in the shape. It's still the same sequence of just roughing in, getting it close. So I started with this color, where before, if you remember, I started with the one below this. Then, I can't remember if I did this or not, but I would most likely have jumped up to the darker charcoal. Back down the scale now to the lighter one. At this point I've got a decision to make whether I'm going to go all the way back to the white, basically a extremely light grey, or down to that first light grey. It depends on the shapes that I'm adjusting. There we got that middle grey. So when I use this middle grey, again, I'm using it to start adjusting those little shapes. And I cycle through these colours, so it didn't really matter. I probably would have gone to this grey rather than that white. And at this point, that's when I can start adjusting these darker tones with this lighter one. So when you're doing this, you've got to do it brighter than the end result's going to be, to allow for the darker colour. You notice I've finished with the darker colour at the end, this stage, and I will with this, because you get that blue shift and you start going the light over dark. So that's what you need to use, the light colour to make those adjustments. But you do need to make it brighter, again, to allow for that blue shift, which gets covered up with the darker colours. So these this sort of strip of darker tones get adjusted with this lighter middle grey. Then I'll go back to the white, make further minor adjustments down this end, and sometimes I adjust the contrast and fog over that whole area. And then from that point, and I'm really happy with those shapes and play with them, then I move up the scale from light to dark to remove all that blue shift and get to that final result. So from there I would have gone to the next darker colour, and I'm more concentrating on this end with this middle grey, getting that right, leaving the white that I wanted there. And then I go to that middle grey. Now you see I've moved up a little bit, so where that light grey and the white, that area is done now, I'm now receding into this middle territory. And then finish off with the charcoal. And again, at this point, you might do some really light dust over and just contrast and stuff. So it's a real process, but you see the difference. But that is the palette for the background. That's the palette for this foreground black and white section. All right, so now the part you really probably want to know is the color. Okay, the fun part, the color. I'm just going to talk about the skin tone now. The first color I made is orangey brown. Basically, most skin colors are based off that orange, and then with some blue added to it, different degrees of blue to get that brown, but it's an orangey brown. So it's hard to see the color, but I'll spray it 100% here. That's the color I come up with for that skin tone. Looks nothing like it because it's too saturated there. However, if you spray it lightly on the page, so the white of the paper represents the white that's not added to the ink yet, then that's how you test how close or far away you are with the color. Now I went with this orangey one first. At halfway through, I made a redder version. I'll talk about that in a minute, but this is where we started. So this was the color I was happy with, and what I did then is used this colour. It was sort of, this is a 60ml jar I think, or 50ml. Might be less, 30ml jar. I had it close to the top with this colour. I used that and added it to white. It's the exact same colour, it's just got white in it to replicate the same colour that I did here. So that was my main colour. Then the same process as I did with the greys, I had 3 versions of it. So this became the darker skin colour with the white added close to that. I added more white for a middle, and then basically white with just a drop of this in it. So it's a creamy coloured white, not a bluey coloured white that would come out of the bottle. I started with the darker of those 3 tones I had. By the way, this colour is hardly even used on there. That was just really used to help me make these. I will tell you how it's used after. So again, this is that first skin tone I did. Exact same process as I did with the greys. This time I started with the darkest one, where before, you remember, I did basically the middle one, or one step down below the darkest one, but this time I started with the darker one, and then I dropped all the way down to the bottom. I'm not rinsing the colours out, but and did the same process. Use this to come up and adjust shapes, and if I needed to adjust some things in the middle, I had the middle colour. There it goes. And then went the same thing before as finished with the darkest one. So when I was making some minor adjustments in that, so you get the shift the same, you get blue shift the same as you do with the greys. The advantage of doing the colour is I've got that original colour I made up first, transparent, and this is like the instant blue shift fixer. So if I made put the lighter colour in here and had a bit of a blue shift, then I could use this really lightly and just fix it instantly. Because doing it really lightly actually just made that same colour that I made in the jar when I had the white in it. Doing it really lightly on the white paper makes the same colour. So that's the advantage of mixing this transparent colour first, using it afterwards to help you adjusting. And then as I started getting into the shadows and it gets a little bit more saturated, then I started to go a little bit stronger. So I can head closer to this. This colour is a little bit too saturated for that purpose, but you start to see that colour tone start to come in. Now this is where I said earlier that I felt like it was a little bit too orange. I needed a more pinky skin tone. So what I did then, I got this colour and I used some of that in the next jar and added more red to it and done the same process. I sprayed it lightly on the white paper and it was more of a reddish pinkish tone when it had the white of the paper showing. And I also, I'm not going to do them now, also had the pinky version and a lighter white, more white added to that pinky version to get some of these skin tones as well. So I end up having 5 skin tones with all white in it, plus 2 transparents without the white in it. And then finally added more blue or Payne's grey, which does a similar thing, to start as I started to get into the shadows. Okay, and even at this point I could go back again with one of the lighter base skin tones, adjust those shapes that are in, you know, sometimes there's the little textures and stuff that are even in the shadows, and correct the shift that happens with the original transparent color. So I love doing color. So it feels confusing at the start, but it's a simpler, that's not simpler, there is no fear of not fixing color shift. You can just go in with white over black, it doesn't matter, because the transparents instantly fix up these things. Lastly, I did have a darker one again in the hair and the stubble in the beard and that, which I won't show you that now. Lastly, the best thing about this, doing it this way, you can quickly get oversaturated when you're using these, right? So that's fine, and a lot of this here is more saturated than parts of that base. You can go with the lightest skin tone or even the second lightest skin tone. I'll do it with the lightest one now. I'm not rinsing in between, so it's not coming out the right color anyway. And you can lightly fog over the whole area. That kills the saturation out of it. It puts a little bit of blue shift, which is fine because blue is in all these colors anyway to make that brownish tinge. So if you feel like it's too saturated, too rich, you can just hit it with one of the lighter colors. And if you overdo it with the lighter colors, it looks too washed out. Then you just go back to this original super color, the very first color we made, the transparent, and you can dust back over that again. Really nice and high, and you get a really nice complex range of skin tones by going through the layers like that. So I won't get into the pink right now. There's just two pinks. There's like a yellowy peachy pink as the base, pink over top. There will be a darker one, but anyway, I just thought I'd show you this quick video. I hope it's helpful for you guys. Let me know. I meant to add, if this has raised more questions than it's answered, let me know in the comments. Yeah, happy to keep talking about it. It's fun for me. I love explaining it. I have a real deep knowledge of all this stuff. So yeah, comment, let me know guys. Again, hope it helps. See you next time.